Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the U.S. Discovery. The ship moved quietly through space near the edge of human territory. Stars filled the big window in front of him. Jake had been doing this job for 10 years now. He loved exploring new places and finding things no human had ever seen before. The Discovery was not a big ship. It only had 30 people on board. Most of them were scientists who studied planets and space rocks. Jake's job was to keep them safe while they did their work. Today felt like any other day until something changed everything. Lisa Grant worked at the navigation station. She was young but very good at her job. She could find their way anywhere in space. Pete Rodriguez was the chief engineer. He made sure all the ship's machines worked right. Amy Carter ran the communications. She talked to other ships and listened for signals from space. Jake was reading reports when Amy suddenly sat up straight. She put her hand to her ear where she wore a small device that let her hear radio signals. Her face went white. "Commander Morrison," Amy said in a shaky voice. "I'm getting a signal. It's a distress call." Jake turned his chair to face her. "From where?" "It's the New Haven. That's the big colony ship that left Earth 6 months ago. They were going to start a new human settlement." Jake knew about the New Haven. It was huge. 50,000 people were on that ship. Men, women, and children. They were brave people who wanted to start fresh on a new world far from Earth. "What are they saying?" Jake asked. Amy listened for a moment. Her hands shook as she worked with her equipment. "Commander, this is bad. Really bad. They say they've been attacked." Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing. Space was usually peaceful. Humans had been exploring for over 100 years. They sometimes had small problems with other alien species, but nothing serious. Most aliens were friendly or just ignored humans completely. "Attacked by who?" Jake asked. "They don't say exactly." "But Commander, they're asking for help. They say their ship has been boarded. The attackers have taken hostages." Jake felt his stomach drop. Hostages? How many? Amy kept listening to the signal. "They're saying most of the people on the ship. The attackers are holding families. There are children, Commander." Jake stood up fast. His chair rolled backward. "Children? Yes, sir. They're asking Earth to surrender some of our planets. If we don't give them what they want, they'll kill everyone on the New Haven." The bridge went completely quiet. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines. He could hear people breathing, but nobody spoke for a long moment. Jake had never felt anger like this before. Someone had attacked innocent people, families, children, people who just wanted to start new lives on a distant world. "Amy, record everything they're sending, every word." "Already doing it, sir." Lisa turned from her station. "Commander, what do we do?" Jake thought for a moment. The Discovery was not a warship. They had some small weapons, but nothing that could fight a real battle. If the New Haven had been attacked and boarded, the enemy must be strong. "Pete," Jake called to the engineer. "Can we go faster?" "How much faster?" Pete asked. "As fast as this ship can move. We need to get back to Earth right now." Pete nodded and ran to his station. Soon Jake could feel the ship's engines working harder. They were racing toward Earth at top speed. "Amy, try to contact the New Haven again. See if you can learn more about who attacked them." Amy worked with her equipment for several minutes. Finally, she shook her head. "Nothing, Commander." The signal stopped. Jake felt cold inside. The silence might mean the worst had happened. "Keep trying. Every few minutes. Maybe they'll come back." For the next 2 hours, Amy tried to contact the colony ship. Nothing came back. Jake paced around the bridge. He couldn't sit still. His mind kept thinking about all those people. The children. Then Amy got something new. "Commander, I'm picking up other signals. Emergency calls from different places." "What kind of calls?" "From other human colonies." 3. Different worlds. They're all saying the same thing. "They've been attacked too." Jake stopped pacing. 3 colonies? "Yes, sir. The attacks happened at almost the same time. Someone planned this." Lisa looked up from her navigation station. "Commander, if they attacked 4 different places at once, this is big." "This is organized," Jake nodded. This was not some random attack by space pirates. Someone had declared war on humanity. Someone who thought humans were weak and would give up easily to save innocent people. "How long until we reach Earth?" Jake asked. 2 days at this speed," Lisa answered. "Pete, can you make it faster?" "I can try, but we might damage the engines." "Do it. Push them as hard as you can. People are counting on us." The ship shook a little as Pete made the engines work even harder. Jake didn't care if they burned out the engines. They had to get to Earth. They had to tell the government what was happening. Jake sat back down in his chair but couldn't relax. He kept thinking about the new haven. 50,000 people. Families who had left Earth looking for a better life. Now they were prisoners of aliens who thought they could scare humanity into giving up. "Amy, send a message to Earth. Tell them we're coming with important information. Tell them it's about attacks on human colonies." "Yes, sir." Jake looked out at the stars rushing past the window. Somewhere out there, human children were scared and crying. Their parents were probably trying to comfort them, while not knowing if they would live or die. The aliens who did this made one big mistake. They thought humans were soft. They thought humans would be too scared to fight back. They thought wrong. Jake had read about Earth's history in school. Humans had fought terrible wars for thousands of years. They had survived disasters that would have killed other species. Earth was a dangerous world that made dangerous people. For the last 100 years, humans had been peaceful. They explored space, made friends with aliens, and built new worlds. But that was because they chose to be peaceful, not because they had to be. "Commander," Amy said quietly, "do you think they're still alive? The people on the New Haven?" Jake looked at her. She was young. She had probably never seen violence or war. Most humans hadn't for many generations. "I hope so, Amy. But even if they're not, someone is going to pay for this." The Discovery raced through space toward Earth. Behind them, somewhere in the darkness, human families waited to be rescued. Ahead of them, Earth waited to learn that its children were in danger. Jake didn't know it yet, but his message would change everything. The peaceful humans who had spread across the galaxy were about to remember what they really were. They were the children of Earth, the survivors of a death world, and someone had just threatened their young. The galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The Discovery reached Earth 2 days later. Jake Morrison had never seen his home planet look so busy. Ships filled the space around Earth like angry bees around a hive. Military vessels that Jake had never seen before moved in formation. The peaceful trading ships were gone. Everything had changed. "This is Discovery requesting permission to land," Amy said into her radio. "Discovery, this is Earth Control. You are cleared for immediate landing at Military Base 7. Director Brooks is waiting for you." Jake knew that name. Helen Brooks ran the Terran Council. She was the most powerful person in human space. If she was waiting for them personally, things were even worse than he thought. The ship landed at a military base Jake had never seen before. As they walked off the Discovery, soldiers surrounded them. These were not the peaceful security guards Jake was used to seeing. These men and women looked hard and dangerous. They carried weapons and moved like hunters. Director Brooks met them at the landing pad. She was a tall woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind her stood a man in military uniform, covered with medals. Jake recognized him from news reports. General Carl Hayes, the head of Earth's small military force. "Commander Morrison," Director Brooks said, "we need to talk right now." They walked quickly into a large building. Inside, Jake saw more soldiers and people in suits hurrying around with papers and computers. Everyone looked worried and angry. Director Brooks led them to a big room with a long table. Many important people sat. Around the table, Jake recognized some faces from the news. These were the leaders of human space. "Tell us exactly what you heard," Director Brooks said. Jake repeated everything Amy had recorded. The attacks on the New Haven and 3 other colonies, the demands for human planets. The hostages, including children. When Jake finished talking, the room was quiet for a moment. Then General Hayes stood up. "Show them the files," he said to an aide. A large screen on the wall lit up. Pictures appeared. Old pictures of Earth from hundreds of years ago. Wars, battles, destroyed cities. Jake had seen some of these in history class, but many were new to him. "Most of you have never seen these," General Hayes said to the room. "We don't teach this history anymore. We thought we had moved past it." More pictures appeared. Soldiers fighting in terrible conditions. People surviving disasters that should have killed them. Humans doing impossible things to protect their families. "Earth is what we call a death world," General Hayes continued. "Most planets were intelligent. Life grows are gentle places, steady weather. Few natural disasters. Peaceful animals. The aliens we've met come from worlds like that." Jake stared at the pictures. He had never thought about it this way. Earth tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, wild animals that hunted us. Diseases that killed entire populations. Only the strongest and smartest humans survived. General Hayes clicked to new pictures. These showed human soldiers from different time periods. Ancient warriors with spears. Knights with swords. Modern soldiers with guns. We fought wars for thousands of years. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. Tribes fought for food and water. Nations fought for land and resources. We learned to be warriors because Earth taught us that only warriors live long enough to have children. Dr. Susan Martinez, a scientist Jake had heard of, stood up next. "I've studied the aliens who attacked our colonies. They call themselves the hegemony. Most of them come from easy worlds. They've never faced real danger. Their idea of war is formal duels between leaders." She showed pictures of the aliens. The Vorthik looked like giant insects. The Zelen looked like walking lizards. They were bigger than humans, but something about them looked soft to Jake. These creatures have never seen total war. They've never had to fight for survival. They think humans are weak because we're smaller. And we've been peaceful for the last 100 years. Director Brooks stood up. They made a mistake. They threatened our children. The room went completely quiet. Jake could feel something change in the air. The peaceful leaders around the table suddenly looked different, harder, more dangerous. "We have a choice," Director Brooks continued. "We can give them what they want and hope they leave us alone. Or we can remind them who we really are." An old man at the table spoke up. "Director, we've been peaceful for generations. Most of our people have never seen violence. We don't even have a real military." General Hayes smiled, but it was not a nice smile. "That's what they think. But we never stopped being human. We just stopped needing to show it." He clicked to a new picture. This showed human colonies across the galaxy. Miners on dangerous worlds. Explorers in deadly environments. Rescue workers who saved people from disasters. "Look at what we do for fun," General Hayes said. We climb mountains that could kill us. We dive into deep oceans. We race machines at deadly speeds. We explore places that would terrify other species. We didn't become soft. We just found safer ways to challenge ourselves. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark, a young military officer, stood up with a computer tablet. Sir, we've been studying the enemy forces. They have better weapons and bigger ships. But they fight like they're playing a game. Formation flying. Long-range shooting. They've never faced an enemy that fights dirty. Jake began to understand. The aliens thought humans would surrender to save the hostages. They thought humans were civilized people who would choose peace over war. They didn't know that humans were civilized by choice, not by nature. Director Brooks looked around the table at all the leaders. The question is simple. Do we give them our worlds to save 50,000 people? Or do we show them what happens when you threaten human children? The vote was not even close. Every single person in the room voted the same way. General Hayes. Director Brooks said formally, I authorize you to activate Protocol 7. Jake didn't know what Protocol 7 was, but he saw General Hayes smile like a wolf. Yes, ma'am. I'll begin immediately. General Hayes turned to his aide. Send the message. To every human world. Send it to every ship. Send it to every colony. Tell them the children of Earth are in danger. Tell them it's time to come home. The aide typed quickly on his computer. Within minutes, the message was racing across space at light speed. It would reach every human settlement in the galaxy. Jake watched as the room filled with new activity. People made phone calls. Computers came to life. Orders went out to places Jake had never heard of. Commander Morrison, Director Brooks said to him, thank you for bringing us this news. Now we need you to help us. We're going to need every ship and every person who knows how to fight. Jake nodded. What do you need me to do? Go back to your ship. Get ready for war, and spread the word to anyone who will listen. Tell them the humans are done being peaceful. As Jake left the building, he could see the changes already beginning. More military ships were arriving every hour. The sky above Earth was filling with vessels Jake had never seen before. Old ships were being pulled out of storage. New ships were being built at incredible speed, but the biggest change was in the people. Jake could see it in their faces. The gentle, peaceful humans he had known all his life were becoming something else, something harder, something that had been sleeping for 100 years. The message was spreading across human space. In mining colonies on dangerous worlds, tough men and women who wrestled with deadly machines every day heard the call and began packing for war. On exploration ships at the edge of known space, crews who faced the unknown as a daily job turned their ships toward Earth. The aliens had made one terrible mistake. They thought humans were soft because they chose to be gentle. They were about to learn the difference between being weak and being civilized. The Deathworlders were waking up, and they were very, very angry. The message reached the mining colony on Titan 7 3 days after it left Earth. Ben Parker was working deep underground when his radio crackled to life. He was a big man with scars on his hands from years of handling dangerous equipment. The mines on Titan 7 were some of the most dangerous in human space. Only the toughest people could work there. All miners report to the main hall immediately, the voice said. Emergency message from Earth. Ben climbed out of the mine shaft, covered in dust and sweat. Around him, other miners were doing the same. These were hard people who wrestled with machines that could crush them every day. They faced cave-ins, gas leaks, and equipment failures that would kill softer people. In the main hall, Colony Manager Rick Davis stood in front of a big screen. His face was grim as he read the message that had come from Earth. The children of Earth are in danger, Rick read aloud. Human colonies have been attacked. Families and children are being held hostage. All able-bodied humans are asked to return to Earth immediately to help with rescue operations. This is not a request. This is a call to defend our own. The hall went completely quiet. Then Ben Parker stood up. "When do we leave?" he asked. "Ships are already on the way to pick us up," Rick answered. "They'll be here tomorrow." Ben nodded. Around him, other miners were nodding too. These people had chosen to live on one of the most dangerous worlds in human space. They were not afraid of anything. And someone had threatened human children. The same scene played out on dozens of worlds across human space. On the ice planet, New Alaska, hunters who tracked deadly creatures through frozen wastelands heard the call and began packing their weapons. On the desert world Sahara Prime, people who survived in conditions that would kill most aliens started the long journey back to Earth. Captain Alex Turner was retired and living quietly on a farm when the message reached him. He was 50 years old and had not worn a uniform in 10 years. But when he heard that human children were in danger, he walked to his closet and pulled out his old military clothes. Alex had been a soldier during the last conflicts between human colonies. He knew how to fight and how to lead others in battle. Within hours of receiving the message, he was on a ship heading for Earth. At the same time, Major Katie Sullivan was teaching at a military academy on Mars. She was one of the few humans who still studied the old ways of war. When her students asked why they needed to learn about ancient battles, she always told them the same thing. "We study war so we can make peace, but we stay ready to fight so we can protect peace." When the message came, Katie canceled all her classes and ordered her students to prepare for real combat. These young people had trained for years, but never thought they would need to use their skills. Now they would learn the difference between training and war. On Earth, General Hayes watched the reports coming in from across human space. Ships were arriving every hour. Not just military ships, but every kind of vessel that could carry people. Mining ships, exploration vessels, passenger transports, cargo haulers. All of them filled with humans coming home to fight. But the most important arrivals were the people themselves. Hayes had studied the old records, but even he was surprised by what he saw. The humans coming back to Earth were not the same as the peaceful colonists who had left generations ago. Living on dangerous worlds had made them harder. Mining in deadly conditions had made them stronger. Exploring unknown space had made them braver. They looked like the peaceful humans who had spread across the galaxy, but something in their eyes was different. Hungrier, more dangerous. Dr. Susan Martinez was working day and night in her laboratory. She was developing new weapons and equipment based on human advantages that the aliens didn't have. The hegemony species were stronger and had better technology, but they had weaknesses. "Their vision is different from ours," she explained to her team. "They can't see as well in dim light. They can't track movement the way we can. And they've never learned to hide from predators because they never had any on their worlds." She showed them designs for new armor that would make humans almost invisible in the shadows. New weapons that were designed to scare enemies as much as kill them. Equipment that would let humans fight in conditions that would blind or confuse the aliens. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Dana White was working on a different kind of weapon. She was spreading stories through alien communication networks, stories about human history, stories about what humans did to enemies who threatened their children. The aliens read these stories and laughed at them. They thought humans were trying to scare them with made-up tales about impossible warriors and impossible battles. They didn't understand that every story Dana sent was completely true. Colonel Bill Jackson was training the new volunteers in military bases across Earth. Most of these people had never been soldiers, but they learned fast, very fast. It was like they already knew how to fight and just needed someone to remind them. "You don't need to teach humans how to hunt," Jackson told his officers. "You just need to teach them what they're hunting." The volunteers included people from every part of human society. Doctors who had saved lives in dangerous conditions. Engineers who had built cities on worlds that tried to kill them every day. Teachers who had protected children from disasters. All of them united by one simple fact. Someone had threatened human children, and that could not be allowed. Chris Murphy, the chief engineer, was converting civilian ships into warships. The work went faster than anyone had expected. It was like the humans doing the work already knew what needed to be done. Mining lasers became weapons. Cargo holds became troop transports. Exploration ships became scouts and raiders. The aliens watching from a distance saw the mobilization and felt confident. They saw thousands of small ships instead of a few big warships. They saw civilians instead of professional soldiers. They thought humans were panicking and sending whatever they had without proper planning. They were completely wrong. Commander Thrak of the Vorthic Empire sent a message to his superiors. "The humans are gathering a fleet, but it appears to be mostly civilian vessels. They seem to be acting out of desperation rather than strategy. I estimate we can defeat them easily and then dictate terms for the surrender of all human worlds." General Xyloth of the Zellan Confederacy agreed. "Let them come. We will destroy their pathetic fleet and then execute the hostages as an example. The other species in the galaxy will see what happens to those who oppose the hegemony." But some of the aliens were not so confident. An old Vorthic officer named Click had studied human history more carefully than his leaders. He tried to warn them. "The stories they tell about their past may be true," he said. "Their planet was very dangerous. They may be more formidable than we think." Thrak dismissed his concerns. "Look at them. They're small and weak. They've been peaceful for generations. They're not warriors. They're merchants and farmers." Click was not convinced, but he was only one voice against many. The hegemony. Leadership decided to wait and see what the humans would do. They expected surrender or a weak attack that they could easily defeat. They had no idea what was really coming. On Earth, the final preparations were almost complete. Millions of humans had answered the call and come home. They brought with them the skills learned on 100 different worlds, the strength earned through surviving in impossible places, the unity that came from being part of the same tribe. General Hayes stood on the observation deck of the main military base and watched the ships preparing to leave. Tomorrow, they would begin the journey to rescue the hostages and teach the hegemony a lesson they would never forget. The Deathworlders were ready for war. The human fleet reached hegemony space 5 days later. Admiral Frank Roberts stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Retribution and looked at the enemy ships waiting for them. The alien fleet was impressive. Big ships with powerful weapons arranged in perfect formations. Everything looked organized and professional. The hegemony had been expecting the humans to arrive eventually. Commander Thrak of the Vorthic Empire commanded over 200 warships. General Xyloth of the Zellan Confederacy had another 100 ships filled with soldiers. They felt confident as they watched the approaching human fleet. What they saw confused them. The human ships did not move in the neat formations that all civilized species used in space battles. Instead, they spread out in loose groups that seemed random. Many of the ships looked like they had been built for mining or cargo transport, not fighting. "They don't even know how to form a proper battle line," Thrak said to his officers. "This will be easier than we thought." But Captain Jenny Foster, commanding one of the human ships, was not worried about formations. She had been a rescue worker on dangerous worlds before answering the call to fight. She knew how to think fast and adapt to changing situations. "All ships, remember the plan," Admiral Roberts said over the radio to the human fleet. We're not here to fight a normal space battle. We're here to get our people back and make sure this never happens again. The battle began when the alien ships opened fire with their long-range weapons. Bright beams of energy crossed the darkness between the fleets. The aliens expected the humans to return fire from a distance like civilized warriors. Instead, the human ships did something no alien had ever seen before. They charged straight at the enemy fleet. What are they doing? Thrak asked his crew. They're flying directly into our weapons' fire. The human ships moved like a pack of wolves attacking prey. They didn't stay in formation. They split up, regrouped, and attacked from unexpected directions. Some ships drew enemy fire, while others snuck around the sides. It was chaos, but organized. Chaos. The first alien ship to be boarded was a Vorthic cruiser. Captain Foster's ship, the Brave Heart, crashed right into its docking bay. The collision would have destroyed both ships if they had been moving faster, but Foster timed it perfectly. Sergeant Tony Miller led the first group of human soldiers onto the alien ship. He had been a miner on Titan VII before the war started. He was used to working in dangerous spaces where one mistake could kill him. The alien ship's corridors felt easy compared to underground mine tunnels. The Vorthic crew had never faced boarders before. Their idea of combat was formal duels with rules and honor. They had no idea how to fight enemies who crawled through air vents, hid in shadows, and attacked from every direction at once. "They're in the walls," one Vorthic officer screamed into his radio. "How are they in the walls?" Tony Miller and his team moved through the ship like they were hunting dangerous animals. They used every trick they had learned surviving on deadly worlds. They could see better in the dim emergency lighting than the aliens could. They could hear the insects moving around, even when they tried to be quiet. Within 30 minutes, the Vorthic cruiser surrendered. Its captain could not understand how 20 humans had defeated a crew of 200 aliens. The same thing was happening all across the battlefield. Human ships rammed alien vessels and sent boarding parties onto them. The humans fought like nothing the aliens had ever seen. They took terrible risks that should have gotten them killed, but somehow they made those risks work. Colonel Bill Jackson was leading the assault on the ship, where the human hostages were being held. This was the most important mission of the battle. The New Haven colonists were somewhere on that massive alien command ship, and Jackson had to get them out alive. Jackson's team included Ben Parker, the miner from Titan VII, and several other volunteers who had answered the call from Earth. They moved through the alien ship like ghosts. The Zelen guards never saw them coming. "Remember," Jackson whispered to his team as they crept through the ship's corridors, "we're not here to kill aliens. We're here to save our people. But if the aliens get in our way, ... He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood. They found the humans in a large cargo hold deep inside the ship. Families huddled together in the darkness. Children cried quietly while their parents tried to comfort them. When the human soldiers appeared, the hostages could hardly believe they were real. "We're here to take you home," Jackson told them. But as the rescue operation began, General Zyloth decided to make a terrible mistake. He ordered his soldiers to start executing hostages to force the humans to retreat. The order never had a chance to be carried out. Lieutenant Maria Santos, a woman who had grown up hunting dangerous predators on a frontier world, was already moving through the ship when the order was given. She and her team eliminated every Zelen guard on the hostage deck before they could hurt anyone. When Admiral Roberts heard what the aliens had tried to do, he sent a message to every human ship in the fleet. "They tried to kill our children. No mercy, no prisoners. Make them remember this day forever." The human attack changed completely. Before, they had been trying to win quickly and efficiently. Now they were angry, really angry. The kind of angry that came from millions of years of evolution on a world that taught them to protect their young at any cost. Captain Lisa Harper commanded a small scout ship called the Lightning. When she heard that the aliens had tried to kill human children, she made a decision that would be remembered forever. Harper flew her ship directly at the hegemony command vessel where General Xyloth was located. Her ship was tiny compared to the massive alien warship, but she didn't care. She activated her radio and broadcast on all frequencies, so every ship in both fleets could hear her. "This is Captain Harper of the Terran Fleet. You made one mistake. You threatened our children. Now you learn what it means to wake sleeping lions." Harper's ship crashed into the command vessel's bridge. The explosion could be seen from across the battlefield. General Xyloth died instantly, along with most of the hegemony's senior commanders. The psychological effect was immediate. Across the alien fleet, ships began to surrender or retreat. The hegemony forces had never seen anything like the human attack. They couldn't understand an enemy that would sacrifice themselves to protect others. Commander Thrak tried to rally his remaining ships, but it was too late. The humans had broken the alien formations and were hunting down individual ships like predators chasing scattered prey. "Retreat," Thrak finally ordered. "All ships, retreat immediately." But the humans were not finished. They followed the fleeing aliens and continued attacking. They wanted to make sure the hegemony understood the message completely. Dr. Susan Martinez's new weapons proved devastatingly effective. Human soldiers seemed to appear out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly. The aliens could not track them or predict where they would strike next. By the end of the day, the hegemony fleet was completely destroyed or scattered. The aliens who survived spread across the galaxy, telling everyone they met about the terrible human warriors who fought like demons and showed no fear of death. The rescued colonists from the New Haven were loaded onto human ships and prepared for the journey home. They were safe now, but the war was not over. The humans had won this battle, but they wanted to make sure no one would ever threaten human children again. Admiral Roberts stood on his bridge and looked at the wreckage of the alien fleet floating in space around him. The Deathworlders had announced their return to the galaxy. Now everyone would know what happened to those who threatened the children of Earth. The news of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, every alien species had heard the story of what happened to the hegemony fleet. The reports all said the same thing. The humans had fought like creatures. From nightmares, the Vorthic Empire fell apart first. The surviving ship captains returned home with stories that no one wanted to believe. They spoke of human warriors who could see in the dark, who moved through their ships like ghosts, and who showed no fear of death when protecting their young. They crawled through spaces too small for any civilized being, Commander Thrak reported. To what was left of the Vorthic leadership, they appeared from nowhere and vanished like smoke. We couldn't track them or predict what they would do next. The Vorthak had built their empire on the idea that they were the most advanced species in the galaxy. Now they learned that advancement meant nothing against an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. The Zellan Confederacy collapsed even faster. The reptilian species had always believed that physical strength was the most important thing in battle. They were bigger and stronger than humans. But that had not helped them at all. The alien survivors told stories about humans who kept fighting even when they were badly wounded, about human soldiers who saved their enemies' lives after defeating them, about warriors who cried when they found alien children among the prisoners, but who showed no mercy to anyone who threatened the innocent. Admiral Frank Roberts stood in the council chamber on Earth, giving his report to Director Helen Brooks and the other human leaders. The rescued colonists from the New Haven were safe and healthy. The hegemony was no longer a threat to anyone. The enemy fleets are scattered, Roberts said. "Most of their ships have returned to their homeworlds. The few that tried to continue fighting were eliminated." Director Brooks nodded. "What about the other species in the galaxy? How are they reacting?" "They're scared," Roberts answered honestly. "Very scared. Most of them are trying to contact us to arrange meetings. They want to know what our intentions are." The truth was that no alien species knew what to think about humans anymore. For over 100 years, they had seen humans as peaceful traders and explorers, friendly people who wanted to make friends and share knowledge. Now they realized that those same humans could become the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy when threatened. Jake Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the new Terran Defense Fleet. His first job was to visit the worlds that had been conquered by the hegemony and help the survivors rebuild their lives. What he found surprised him. The hegemony had been bullying dozens of species for generations. Small, peaceful peoples who could not defend themselves against the alliances. Military power. Now they were free, and they all wanted to thank the humans who had saved them. "We never thought anyone would stand up to the hegemony," said Ambassador Kree of the Altarian Republic. "They seemed too powerful, too organized. But you defeated them in a single battle." Jake tried to explain that humans had not wanted to fight. They had only done what was necessary to protect their own people and rescue the hostages. "We're not conquerors," Jake told the alien ambassador. "We just want to live in peace and raise our families safely." But Ambassador Kree looked at him with something like wonder in her large eyes. "You are the children of a death world. You survived where we would have died. You became strong where we remained weak. The galaxy is safer because you are in it." Dr. Susan Martinez was working with scientists from a dozen different species, sharing the technology that had made the human victory possible. The aliens were amazed by how humans thought about problems. Where they saw obstacles, humans saw opportunities. Where they saw limitations, humans saw challenges to overcome. "Your stealth technology is based on predator hunting patterns," said Dr. Vex, a Zellan scientist. "Our species never developed such concepts because we had no predators on our homeworld." Dr. Martinez nodded. "Every human child grows up playing games where they hide from each other or hunt for hidden objects. We don't think of it as military training, but that's what it is." The most important change came in galactic politics. The peaceful species that had been too afraid to oppose the hegemony now formed a new alliance with humanity, the Terran Defense Compact. Was not just a military treaty. It was a promise that the strong would protect the weak, and that no one would ever again face extinction alone. General Carl Hayes established military training programs for any species that wanted to learn human fighting techniques. The response was overwhelming. Even peaceful plant-like beings from garden worlds wanted to understand how humans thought about defense and survival. "We're not teaching them to be violent," Hayes explained to the Terran Council. "We're teaching them to be prepared. There's a difference between choosing peace and being forced into it by weakness." The rescued colonists from the New Haven settled on their original destination world, which the humans had liberated from hegemony control. But they were different now. They had seen what could happen when peaceful people were unprepared for violence. They made sure their new settlement could defend itself if necessary. Captain Tony Miller, the former miner who had led the first boarding action, became the head of colonial security. He trained civilian volunteers to fight if they ever needed to, but he also made sure they understood the real lesson of the war. "We fight so our children don't have to," he told his students. "We stay strong so we can choose to be gentle. The moment we forget how dangerous the galaxy can be is the moment we put our families at risk." The hegemony's former territories were divided among the species they had conquered. Humans took nothing for themselves except the right to establish defense bases to protect the weaker species. The galaxy learned that human strength came with human honor. Years later, children of many different species played together on worlds that had been battlefields. Human children and alien children learned each other's languages and customs. But their parents remembered the lesson of the HFY War. Jake Morrison, now in charge of galactic security, often stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watched the peaceful ships moving between the stars. Traders, explorers, families moving to new homes. The galaxy was safe again. But Jake never forgot what Director Brooks had said in that first meeting. They made one mistake. They threatened our children. The Deathworlders were sleeping again, but they were not sleeping deeply. They watched over their growing galactic family with the protective instincts that had kept humanity alive for millions of years. And everyone in the galaxy understood the simple truth that had ended the hegemony. You could wake the humans if you really needed to, but you should never, ever threaten their young. Because when the children of Earth were in danger, their parents would move mountains, cross galaxies, and fight impossible battles to keep them safe. The galaxy was better for having learned this lesson, and the humans made sure it would never be forgotten.